show. Now let's talk about something else that's heating up in Washington, and it relates to TV's most famous bounty hunter, Duane "Dog" Chapman, who's making headlines again. We know that Duane "Dog" Chapman is hoping to strike a deal in an effort to avoid extradition to Mexico to face charges stemming from his capture of convicted rapist Andrew Luster there 3 years ago. And now Dog's arrest is reaching Capitol Hill, and some members there are furious. In a letter to Attorney General Alberto Gonzales, one U.S. congressman says, "I'm beginning to wonder who is in charge of prioritizing assignments. Is it this administration or the one in Mexico City?" And joining us now from Washington is the congressman who wrote that letter, Tom Tancredo. He's Republican from Colorado. Congressman, who do you think is calling the shots? That's a pretty strong letter.
Well, you're right, but you look at all of the events that have occurred here in the last several years, and the fact that the Mexican military routinely comes across our border, and we do nothing about it. You do wonder why we are so reluctant to deal with Mexico in a way we would with any other nation. And in this case, there are just so many questions that are unanswered. This is it's really bizarre, to say the least.
Yeah, do you feel priorities are out of whack on both sides of the border? I've been down there. I've seen just how difficult it is managing, how vast the area is, and then yet we've got an issue of drug lords, killers, all these things right on the border, and they're going after Duane "Dog" Chapman from 3 years ago.
That's my point. That was the point of my letter to them. Every time we ask them at either the Justice Department or at State about why they aren't doing more in terms of securing our border, why they aren't doing more in rounding up the 400,000 illegal aliens in this country that have committed other crimes, they always tell us they don't have the resources. But in this case, they've got the resources to go after a bounty hunter who, in fact, has done more for justice in this country than the Justice Department, from my point of view, at least most of the time. And in this case in particular, he goes down there with the knowledge of the federal government, the United States government. He goes down there and works with the Mexican police in arresting this guy who has, 86 rapes, right?
Yeah, 86 counts.
86 counts, who's now serving 120 years. And now we're going after, spending time and money going after Dog Chapman? Well, listen, this is ridiculous. And Rita? There's far more politics in this issue than there are issues revolving around justice.
Well, let me ask you about that, Congressman, because I found it extremely ironic, and I've covered this case for years. Now, Dog Chapman gets arrested, and then suddenly, out of the blue, one of the worst drug lords who the U.S. had wanted for some time, and I think we have a picture of him, suddenly gets brought to the United States for justice. Do you smell a deal here? Do you smell some sort of rat, that maybe there was some trade?
I think there's more to this story than just what was printed originally. You bet there's other things here. We have been pressing Mexico for years now to actually extradite people back to the United States who have committed heinous crimes here. One was in Colorado, in my state. Guy killed a Denver police. I've forgotten what his rank was, but Danny Young was his name. Killed him. Garcia Gomez was the name of the perpetrator. Fled to Mexico. We finally were able to get him back by bringing all kinds of pressure to get him to extradite. But, this is, and so now I think in a way they're looking and saying, okay, you're pushing us to extradite these people back. We're going to extradite somebody like Dog. But it's not the same. I mean, frankly, we're talking about murderers here. There are 3,000 murder warrants out in California alone for people who have fled to Mexico. 3,000.
It's amazing.
It isn't a quid pro quo here. Dog Chapman, what did he do? He detained somebody down there in Mexico. That's a sentence that carries like 4 months.
In fact, I want to ask you, Congressman, you spoke with the Dog directly. I also spoke with them last week here, also on MSNBC. What was that conversation like, and what role do you think you can play now to help him?
Well, the latter half of your question is the really tough one. Here's what I'm going to try to do. Well, the conversation was great for me. I've never spoken to him before, but I've been an admirer of his for a long time. I watch the program all the time, I must tell you.
You're a fan.
Oh, I am a fan, a big fan. But here's what I'm going to try to do, and here's how maybe even your viewers can help me. I'm going to write a letter. We have penned another letter, this time to the Department of State, and we have been very specific in our request to drop this whole thing. Now, in order for that letter to have enough power behind it to make them pay attention over at State, I need other members to sign on to it. So it's going to be on my website. You know, you can go to Tancredo, thathouse.gov. It'll pop up. It'll be on my website. What I need your viewers to do is to talk to their congressman and get them to sign on to that letter. We're going to send it out to everybody, but I need pressure from constituents to their legislators telling them to sign on to the Tancredo letter. That'll get us a lot more clout, if you know what I mean.
All right, Congressman, thank you very much. And I know the dog and his family appreciate your support. Thank you.
My best to them.
Thank you so much, Congressman.
Right.
Great to have you.
Bye-bye.
And